Hello out there. I figured this evening would be a fine time to start into the restoration of this cute little thing, which is a Blacksmith's or wheelright's tire bender or ring roller. So when you'd have an old-fashioned wooden spoke wagon wheel or carriage wheel, the metal hoop that would go around it and hold the whole thing together could be bent on this. It'd be bent cold. No use in putting all the heat into every point. It would just be a mess. In theory, you could do it over the horn of an anvil, but it would be quite the thing. So these things were quite often in wagon, in general repair shops. I got this thing from the East Coast, and it came from the shop of a fellow by the name of Morrow, who lived to the ripe age of 99. Started his shop when he was 18 or so, and did general repair, horseshoeing, all that type of thing. And I reckon he put it on this base because it's a small little unit really. The Jardine made all kinds of these, number 1, 2, 3, 4. But you see number 2s and 4s out there, but I've never seen a number 1, which I assume this is because of how petite it is. This thing has 2 ranges for this adjustable roller, and those 2 sockets, and it's adjusted by this big bolt here at the end, so it slides on an angle like so. So there's a hand crank, which is hanging off there. You can put it on either side. Either you put it on the top roll with the small little gear, to give yourself more torque, slower speed, presumably for thicker stock, or you can put it directly on the bottom roll, which will turn the whole thing much more quickly for smaller straps, say for consistently bending barrel bands or something like that for cask barrels. So I think we'll give it the old once over, pop it apart real quick, wire wheel, replace this plank, which is just bolted to the bottom and then to the roller itself. Show you the other side. It's heavy, but it's definitely not ungodly heavy. It's quite manageable. So there it is. We'll give it a go over. The darkness is setting in. It was an awfully hot day today. It's still sweating on the brow a little bit, and I believe the heat has brought in some rumbles and wetness is on its way. So I'll get this thing apart and start to bring it inside, wire wheel, and do all the whole process. Here's the base. Strange goings on here. There's a little gap that the top roller can move back and forth in, and I took a dental pick and scraped all around the edge and didn't find a single deviation or nip or anything going on, because obviously this is a solid casting all the way around, and so presumably this roller would be one piece, and this shaft, which you can see has been repaired here at some point, would be a separate piece. And based on this cotter pin here, I thought there'd just be maybe a key sitting in this and a key way in the shaft or something. I should have known, there's nothing there. But there isn't that. And the same thing on this side. I put the dental thing around, and there's no obvious marking of how this is indexed to this roller, because you do supply power to this roll. Unless this top roll is supposed to slip and it's seized on there right now, and this gear is supposed to only drive this roll. That's possible too, which is sitting there. So, not sure. Womped it with a hammer a bit. Obviously don't want to bust anything, so I'll probably go to a press and try that. Slow downward force. This stuff is always a help as well. CRC's multi-purpose lubricant for moving parts, rusted fasteners, all that type of thing. I like to bomb that on things that are kind of giving me troubles. And let that sit, think about itself for a while. Maybe give it a couple more coats, and then try again to get that thing out of there. Well, with that little bit of heat and some wampus persuasion there, it has begun to move. So, see, pretty good down flush now. I took a file real quick to the edges in case there's any mushrooming, so it wouldn't get all bunged up once this end of the shaft passes through the roller. So I'll just get some other punchy drifty device, and we'll try and wamp that all the way through. Here are all the parts. The crank handle, I believe, is also off of an old cream separator or something like that, just because of its construction, and you often see them with the big wooden handle, and it's something of a story because this strap has been welded to the cast iron handle, so it's not the original, or if it is the original, it had some sort of a catastrophic disaster. So this should just be able to pop off. I'll pop the wooden part off. As for the other pieces, there we go. Oh, what happened there? I just loosened the jam nut, so I'll have to put a pipe wrench on here, take that whole thing off. It's threaded in. Well, I kept fighting and oiling this threaded end here, but in the fight, the little peened on end just decided to come off. So I said, all right, no problem. Just a piece of wood, and I'll just leave it on there, clean it in place, and paint the handle, tape it off. On the base, did some grinding on this old weld. The foot blew off at one time. You can see a very nice heavy plate, and this dirty big weld was done on here. And it seems, based on the spark pattern and the material and all that type of thing, that it's the old-fashioned cast iron, the true cast iron welding with a torch cast iron rod, as opposed to nickel or any of that type of thing. So kind of neat, kind of vintage. Get the wire wheel going and clean this stuff up. Well, I've got to say, absolutely sweltering day out here, but thank goodness for the breeze. Anyway, everything's prepped, cleaned, wire wheeled, and I've masked the roller pivots and that type of thing. And these things are going to get painted, and those things are going to get oiled, including this guy later. Let's go for it. Here we are a little later and the paint's dried and things are looking good, ready to be reassembled. So when I did this handle up, I just mentioned that I was going to just weld this little collar back on, so I went ahead and zapped it real quick. So now this is back together, and I put some oil in there before putting the wood back in place. These things still have tape on them from the paint department, so I'll just go ahead and pop that off. And I know some of you are probably cringing out there saying, oh, don't ever paint the gears, don't ever paint the belt pulleys and all that type of thing. And I agree, generally speaking, but it was just going to be too much masking to not paint the gear teeth in this case. And ultimately it'll wear a little bit, and the tolerances are so broad in this case that a little bit of paint in the gears, no big deal at all. So the only thing I don't like is the inconsistency, because this square shaft is painted and that one's not, but not the end of the world. So there's the base. I'll pop the tape out of this as well. That wheel has tape around it, and I'll oil the heck out of the roller. These ones have already been, you can see they've darkened up nicely. I oiled them and then let them sit in the sun, so the heat would hopefully help the oil get into the metal a little bit. Presumably cast iron rollers. And this piece, oh yeah, I was going to mention, this is the adjusting bolt right here. And A.V. Jardine was a massive company that made metalworking and some woodworking tools, but noticeably they employed lots of blacksmiths as well. And I found this out during my exploration of one of their 25-pound power hammers, the Canadian Giants. And this is a perfect example right here. This is kind of an ornamental rounded head bolt, and you can see the remaining marks from where this would have been just a solid, say, 1/2-inch bar, and they wrapped another bar around it, forge welded it, and then squared it up in a traditional technique of bolt heading. So that's pretty neat. And actually I just saw a video recently on the page of the Woodland Escape, showing a fellow doing a very nice demonstration of doing exactly that. So go check that out if you want to see more on it. Anyway, oil, I have this oil rag. I'll just wipe everything down with a quick dusting of it, and then as I use it, we'll probably give more oil to the different rolling elements and that type of thing. Additionally, I made this ash board, just hand planed it, kind of like the circular saw marks, but also it was quite bowed, so it was very difficult to get these out of there, but that's all right. I kind of like this style. And the old board that was on there, the bottom had a massive big gouge from a circular saw that kind of goofed. Maybe it was off-cut slab wood or something. And popped some holes, put some little plain chamfers on it, simple bottom. So that should sit right there. Have the carriage bolts for it that are measured out. A lot of people don't like carriage bolts, but if you figure how to put the perfect size drill bit and then tap them in there, the square shanks lock them and do a very good job. As long as the wood doesn't get all rotten, that's a whole other story. So carriage bolts there, up from here and here to mount to the base. Let me go ahead and put that together. Well, there she is, the pretty little thing with little name touch-ups, all the rollers. I'm awful happy with that, although I must admit to a couple misjudgments. If you look through there and you see the top of the carriage bolt there and there, I put them a little bit too wide, so the base is actually sitting just on the edge of that carriage bolt instead of flush on the wood. And there was something else. Oh yes, this crank works perfectly, 100%. But this one is shorter to the body, and so it still works, but it kind of rubs on the base there. It doesn't go as far as it should. So anyway, oopsie daisy. Well, what good's a new tool if it doesn't work? So let's try it out. I think, oh, dominant hand. Maybe I should feed it in from this side. Yeah, that'll work. This is just an old piece of scrap mild steel. I don't know what it's from exactly. Tighten it up a bit. Come on now. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have oiled the rollers. Silly guy. I have seen in old videos of guys using these, they start the bend over the anvil. So that might be what's going on here. And it is funny that now that this roller slips because of how I removed it, and no material was lost, it's definitely not getting that much traction, but based on the differential in speed, it should slip. So that's a bit interesting. Might have started the bend a little bit. Well, did something. I'd call that a success. Obviously, next time I use it, the oil will have to come off those rollers, but you live and you learn. Anyway, the sun's coming out a little bit, shining on the glorious new machine. Hope you enjoyed the video, and see you next time.